call.
What advice would you have now? Because we've spoken, you know, it's a parenting television show, and something that you guys brought up, we miss the children in all of it, you know, and I mean, we're discussing death, but I mean, with anything, you know, even like, you know, a mom who's being abused at home, everybody seems to forget that, well, but the child is watching this, you know, and they're all focusing on the mother that's being abused, or the mother that's ill, or the mother that has cancer, but there are children involved, and as you say, they become emotional orphans, because they sit back there and no one's taking them on, no one's asking. Is there any advice that you guys have for dealing with that, for dealing with the child, handling the child's grief? Don't all rush now.
Well, the Grieve Share program, we have a session where we inform, it is really informative to the caregivers who would be taking care of the children who has lost their parent or parent. But we deal with the caregivers, because kids, they grieve differently depending on the age. Even adults, even like teens, they grieve differently. They grieve like in segments, because young children, they don't zone out like adults would. They would play normal, and then they would come out of the play and they will sit and be sad. That's how children operate in a grieving, you know, situation. They grieve like that. So you, as a parent or a caregiver, you have to explain to them. Don't tell them lies. Tell them the truth in a way that they can understand without being too, you know, morbid or so. But tell them the truth. Tell them about heaven. Let them know, I mean, that you'll meet again with your parents. Give them hope. Grief is a hopeless situation, but we have to give hope and encourage each other. That is what grief is about. It's about the people who are left behind need to encourage each other. We need to educate ourselves about grief and the effects of grief. And
It's not just for 9 days, right?
No. It takes a very long time. Grief takes a long time, and each person will grieve for different periods of time. But back to children. Children need our support. Even when you may see them playing and so, and you will think they're okay, and they are left.
We hear that all the time. We say, you know, they're fine, children are resilient. We hear that all the time, children are resilient.
They seem to be, because they deal in segments, because they play, they must play. But after, it comes like an adult. You may bury yourself in your work, but after the work, all comes crashing down on you. So the adults have to be there for the children. A lot of parents, even with grief going on in a family, they go down with it and they forget the kids. Because when my son died, my mind was on my daughter. I was like, how is she going to deal with this? And you have to be careful what you say when you're grieving. You know, people talk a lot when they're grieving. Some people talk out stuff. You have to be careful what you say when you're the children are present. You can't be saying, oh, this is my life gone, and so then when they hear that, so who am I? That's what they would be thinking. You have to be mindful of your kids when you grieve in the utterances that you make or in grief, because you can hurt them even more. You can hurt them with your, you know, lamenting, and because you would be surprised that they will come and ask you, so, Mommy, you don't love us? You're only thinking about John or whoever? It happens.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah.